Hello, everybody. It's Uncle Grumpy. I'm going to give you a minute to join in, and I'm going to share this a bit, and we'll get started here in a minute. There we go. Okay, hopefully you guys are having a good night. We have some pretty shocking stuff going on right now. Well, it's been going on for a while, but anyway, we're going to get started here in just a second. Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. It's Uncle Grumpy. Good to see you here. Thank you for checking in. First and foremost, as always, thank you to the sponsors. If it wasn't for sponsors, I wouldn't be able to do a show because it does take more than just me sitting here at home with my phone, believe it or not. So thank you to the Greens Bakery in Oklahoma City, Sweet Leaf Dispensary and Health Center in Bartlesville, Green Country Bud in Tulsa, which I was just at yesterday. That was fun, or day before. And of course, Scissortail Law, Julia Zell, as always. So thanks to the sponsors. And new sponsor, by the way, I want to get this out of the way before we jump to this. Cannabis Island. I've been waiting for this for a long time. I'll tell you the whole story if you come see me there. But Cannabis Island opens in Del City on Saturday. We'll talk more about that later, so please plan on being there. All right, I'm going to bring Dr. Lawrence Pasternack in here pretty quick. Lawrence, if you're not there, I haven't seen you request to join in yet. If you're watching, please request to join in. And we have some things we want to talk about. This has to do with housing and your MMJ card. Let's see. A couple more places I need to put this here. Alright. Okay, Lawrence, you think you need to request to join in? I don't see it yet. Let's see. Alright, there we go. Okay, up there he is, Lawrence. Alright, you need to ask to join in. There you go. Alright, here we go with Dr. Lawrence Pasternack. Hopefully the sound will hold up. If you guys have any trouble, let me know and we'll see what we can do to fix it. Here we go. Alright. Okay, he should be with us in just a second. I bet the sound's starting to mess up right about now. And there he is. How are you, Lawrence?
Oh, not too bad. How do
Well,
I
let's see. I
sound?
have no sound. Hold on. Speak up again.
Can you not hear
I
me?
have no sound coming out of my phone. Oh, that's why. Try it again.
All right, I'm talking again.
Okay, I got you. All right, I've got this flash, this light that plugs into the phone, and I guess I stuck it in a little too far. Because it goes into the uh, earphone jack to charge, and I guess I should have
Gotcha.
backed it out just a little bit. So I don't know how much is good it's doing anyway, but we'll just set it right there. I think we still got sound. Okay. All right, Lawrence. So how are you doing this evening?
Not too bad. It's been a busy day, but this is an important issue, so here I am.
This is an important issue. I got this to give everybody a little background here. You guys have heard me talk lately about changing the focus of the show with the legislation, uh, with legislation being set for the year, and with the lawmakers have gone home for the session. We've refocused the show on different issues and more of what's going on in the small towns and communities and places where they're just not turning on the green light, so to speak, here for cannabis, and they're doing what they can to interrupt people's lives when they're trying to get their lives back under control. So in that case, you heard me talk about the district attorney who was doing these searches with the drug dogs on houses, apartment complexes where there's federally assisted housing. Um, I wasn't able to get down there that day that was supposed to happen. It was also the day we started getting tornadoes. I think we've maybe had 1 or 2 days since then where we didn't have tornadoes, and that's about it. So we haven't been able to get out there and get any video of this. I have been, however, talking to people in the background. I've been getting calls from people who want to remain anonymous, who are close to this district attorney. I think it was Jason Hicks, I think was his name, who are close to that community, who know some of what goes on in some of these towns. This was Cato County, and this had to do, like I say, with the dogs being used to search housing with federally assisted housing programs. So we saw this as really a twisting of the law. So Lawrence has been helping look into this. And Lawrence, tell us what we've come up with today, because I got this call again today, another one. This particular person, who's probably watching right now, had to renew her status. She gets federal assisted housing as thousands do in Oklahoma and need it, and even more now with the flooding. And and there's a new question on there that asks her if she has a medical marijuana card. And in being a good, honest citizen and doing this all the legal way, being over 60 years old, thinking this wasn't something she did before she got the card, thinking she's done everything right, she was told she had to turn her card back in or lose her voucher for her housing. So, Lawrence, that's when I called you and got you into digging up some stuff with your version of Siri there. Your I'm not. We have to give this thing a name. I'll tell you guys. He has 4 big monitors lined up there, and Siri
Three.
had 3. Okay, and Siri has nothing on this guy. You want to ask a question, this computer will spit it out. So, and it has fancy lights. It's real pretty. So,
Mm.
Lawrence, tell us what you came up with out of your Wonder Machine.
Okay, so first of all, recipients of Section 8 housing are being told that they have to return their medical marijuana cards or basically lose their housing benefits. And so, first of all, having a medical marijuana card as such, there's no federal prohibition against having a medical marijuana card. There's nothing illegal about having the card itself. In fact, I know a number of people who have this card solely to protect themselves for using hemp. Hemp is federally legal, including the THC in federally legal. That's stated in the 2018 Farm Act. So there are people who simply have that medical marijuana card so that they could have the hemp, and basically if a police officer was wondering what that is and they think it might be marijuana, you don't have to worry. You just show them your card. So if you have a medical marijuana card, it doesn't mean that you're a medical marijuana user. And it doesn't follow that those who control Section 8 housing, the local housing authority or the landlords, have any legal basis that I could find to say that they have to return their medical marijuana cards.
Okay,
Having a medical marijuana card doesn't mean you're a medical marijuana.
Okay,
That's just the first point.
this might be, when I talked to this lady who told me about this, I thought maybe this might be one bad actor here. It might be one bad caseworker who's twisting the law, because we see on a daily basis with people who don't understand the law. So that's why we looked into it further, and we see, I'm not going to show this in detail, okay, but because this has the lady's name on it, but this is the actual legal letter from the housing authority telling her they reviewed her finances and her housing situation to readmit her into the program, and they had found one problem. They needed recognition. They needed a letter stating that her card had been rescinded or, turned in before they were going to let her continue. So they're actually, it's not one rogue. I just want to make that clear. This isn't a rogue one rogue guy behind a desk uh, hurting a few people. This might be one rogue person, but he's at a much bigger desk hurting a much greater number of people because he's sending out memorandums and notes he can sign demanding everybody follow this procedure.
All right, so point number two. Point number two, the Oklahoma City Housing Authority, in a letter dated February 1st, 2019, signed by their executive director, states that the Department of Housing and Urban Development requires all public housing authorities to prohibit admission or continued program participation based on the illegal use of marijuana and other controlled substances. That is, the claim is from the Housing Authority that the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development requires them to prohibit the use of medical marijuana in the facilities that they have control over. And so that actually doesn't seem to be the case.
Okay, so
federal law does not require them.
Well, hold on a
Yes?
second. So what you're saying here is, and this person, is this Mark that you're talking about? This uh, uh, at the bottom of this thing you've signed here or you've sent here, was it Gillett? Gillett. Okay, he has decided he is over the whole agency of Oklahoma City or all over the whole state. Which is it?
Well, this is a letter. The letter that you just showed is from the Oklahoma City Housing Authority.
Okay.
So various locales within the state, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Stillwater, and so on and so forth. They have their own local housing authorities. In addition to, there is another agency at the state level that might deal with very small areas, very small populated areas.
So this is an isolated. This is isolated to Oklahoma City so far that we know of.
I don't know. I don't know what the position is of the other housing authorities through the state.
Okay, well, I'll say this. I'll say we know the position of the DA in these other counties is similar to this, but we've not seen a letter from the housing authority in those counties yet. I will look into finding a way to get those, but as of right now, just to make it clear, we only have the letter from the Oklahoma City Housing Authority confirming that this is their policy. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So now point number three is, so the question is their claim that they're required to prohibit medical marijuana, is that actually true? So I looked up the policy position of the Federal Housing and Urban Development Department, and it actually is not the case. So the policy position of federal HUD agency is, let me read it. For existing residents, this agency requires that local agencies establish occupancy standards and lease provisions that will allow the local agencies to terminate assistance for use of controlled substances. However, the law does not compel such action, and local authorities have discretion to determine continued occupancy policies that are most appropriate for their local communities. Local authorities can also determine whether to deny assistance or terminate individual medical marijuana users rather than entire households for both applicants and existing residents when appropriate. They have the discretion to determine on a case-by-case basis the appropriateness of program determination for existing residents for the use of medical marijuana. So the position of federal HUD is it's up to the discretion of the local agency to determine their policies. They could set a general policy, the decisions on a case-by-case basis, and so on. So it is not the case that what is said in the letter from the Oklahoma City Housing Authority is correct. They're not required to prohibit it. they have latitude, according to HUD, they have latitude to decide what their policy is going to be.
Would be um, that would be in this letter right here. Okay, we have, so everybody knows, I printed all these things out that Lawrence is talking about. He sent me the links. I will put those links up in the video later. I'm sorry, somebody was just trying to call in. I just hit deny. I think that was, it said Washington State. I'm not sure who that was. Okay. Anyway, so we will put the links for those, for everything Lawrence has been, his references on there later. Go ahead, Lawrence.
Right. So, I think we need a legal opinion here to walk us through all of this. Um, but so far, at least as I could find, it seems that federal law does not require that the local agencies prohibit medical marijuana. It's up to the local agency to set their policy.
So, so it's each county could be doing it different. Now, so if you're in any federal housing assistance program, please let us send me some information. Let me know what county you're in if you're having this issue. If you can get a copy or a screenshot of your application where it has the question asking, do you have a medical marijuana card, yes or no? I'd like to see that. Um, my outrage here is that the federal government has done what they do so well. They stick their nose where we don't want it, and they don't stick their nose where we need it. And what I mean by that is they've left it to individuals. We know the science on this. We know that states are doing this, but by not having an opinion, by leaving it to the states, they're leaving too many people like this district attorney we referred to, or this caseworker, or this person that has sent out this, who's made this decision, okay, to do this. It leaves too much to too many individuals that are making wrong decisions based on, I'll say reefer madness just to keep it short. What do you think?
So I'm actually surprised that the federal government provides that latitude at the state level. And given that they do provide that latitude at the state level and that our state has legalized medical marijuana, I find it befuddling how a local authority is going against the state law when they have federal latitude to comply with state law.
So that's the
It
end.
doesn't make
So that's the takeaway here. That's the takeaway, that we have state officials, state law enforcement using, or agencies using the latitude they have to, rather than free up the people, give the people more ability to reclaim their lives, get off of opioids, quit ODing on opioids. Instead, they want to keep the status quo.
Well, status quo or not, they don't want anyone receiving these benefits to be using medical marijuana. They're not even, doesn't seem, at least from Oklahoma City, they're not even looking at it on a case by case basis.
So we have spent the last year since this passed doing everything we can to try and get the cost down, to try and get access to be easier, to try and help poor people get their cards. And you know how many of them are on housing assistance programs? A huge,
How many?
huge number. Huge number.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still talk to people every
Mm-hmm.
day who are on disability, who are saving the money to get their card because they haven't even thought of this conundrum yet. They haven't even realized that they might lose their housing voucher.
So, yeah, another option, of course, is that those who are in Section 8 housing who say they have Medicare or Medicaid, another option is for them to get a prescription for Marinol and use hemp. So they use hemp that gets, all the other cannabinoids. They add a little bit of Marinol in it for the THC. Put them together, you got marijuana.
we've talked about that frequently in the last few shows, and I want to recap as to why. I want you to explain again the why why some THC is now federally legal. Um, but this isn't even about. They're not getting asked that question. They're not getting asked, "Do you use cannabis? Do you buy it in a dispensary? Do you buy it on the street? Do you use hemp? Do you use federally legal hemp?" They're being asked, "Do you have a medical marijuana card?" You
Yeah.
spoke in great length as to why people get this card for legal protection that don't even use
Right,
THC, but it might
right.
there's some in some of the products they use. So, I mean, we're we've got
Having
a
a medical,
dilemma here.
having a medical, having a medical marijuana card doesn't mean that you're violating federal law.
But
And so it doesn't
it
seem
means
like,
that they're gonna but it means that you're gonna lose your housing voucher because they're not asking if you
yeah.
use it.
Yeah. So first of all, it doesn't mean you're violating federal law. Second of all, the local authorities aren't even required to prohibit you from using medical marijuana. So for both these reasons, there's an inconsistency between what the authority is doing and what people should be legally entitled to.
Well, this is definitely a legal conundrum. I'd like a whole lot more evidence of this. This person was nice enough to send me some very personal information as to her application and all that. And again, I won't share the name. That's not my information to share. But if anybody else out there is in the same predicament, I'd like to start gathering some names here. I'd like to start seeing where in what all counties this is happening because as Lawrence has explained here, it's up to the different districts basically to decide how they want to do this.
And Chris, you're going to post the policy position from HUD on your Facebook page so anybody could look at it,
Right.
right?
Now, remind
Yeah.
us, Lawrence, recap what we talked about last week on the show about why it is that some THC is federally legal.
So, December 2018, President Trump signed the Farm Bill into law. And Section 12619 of the Farm Bill explicitly alters the Controlled Substances Act to remove THC from Schedule 1 when that THC is derived from hemp. It's unambiguous. It modifies Schedule 1 so that THC, when derived from hemp, is now excluded from Schedule 1. It is no longer illegal. THC from hemp is no longer illegal. Employees, people in government assisted housing, and so on are not violating federal law when they're using THC from hemp.
Now remind them again how they go about doing that so that they could actually be, if they choose to, within those federally legal guidelines. How would they do that?
Right. My thought is, and I've passed this idea by a few attorneys, my thought is that first of all, what you would want is you'd want a doctor to have a written recommendation that you use full spectrum hemp CBD products, something like that. So have your doctor put in writing that for whatever your medical condition is, that they recommend that you use a full spectrum hemp product containing CBD. Then what you do is you purchase a Farm Act 2018 Farm Act compliant hemp product and you save that receipt. So with the physician's recommendation, number one. Number two, with the receipt establishing your use of a Farm Act compliant product, then whatever THC is contained therein, if you are urine tested for it or whatnot, despite the fact that you test positive for THC, you could establish that you're not in violation of law. And furthermore, because you have that doctor's recommendation, you have the American Disabilities Act protection behind you.
So tell them all, you say these federally legal hemp products. What then products would those be? CBD, and you can get flour too, right?
Well,
You get hemp
you know,
flour.
it could be it could be hemp flour, it could be a hemp derived vape, it could be a hemp derived edible, it could be a CBD pill. most of these things will have trace THC in it. And the point of this amendment to Schedule 1 is that trace THC, even though it can show in your urine, is not illegal anymore.
So it just has to be derived. Whatever the product is, it just has to say on there derived from hemp.
Well, it has to say something like, this product complies with the 2018 Farm Act, the Agricultural Improvement Act of 2018.
Okay, so I could be using some hemp flour. I could be using some CBD oil. I could here be a good example for a good treatment. I could be using CBD oil before I go to work in the morning, um, doing my safety sensitive jobs, which in this case could be that I drive a forklift in a tire warehouse. I'm just throwing something out I did when I was a kid. Um,
Mhm.
I did that once. And so, and it wasn't CBD I was using in the morning, but that's another story. So, and then I could go home that night and I could use hemp. I could smoke the flower, smoke hemp, like these different
Mhm.
kinds that have been around since before 788 even passed. And and provided my doctor has suggested, and I have a written recommendation, I use this hemp for my arthritis or my anxiety or whatever it is, then when I get fired for a THC positive test, we're not now, let me tell everybody, Lawrence and I are not lawyers, but the conclusion that we are coming to here, correct me if I'm wrong, Lawrence, is that we think you have a legal case. Now,
Mhm.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
as Julie, the House attorney, has said before, it sounds that way to her too, but someone's going to have to be the test case. That's the problem. We,
Yeah, but let me add this, that if you test positive for THC, or even before you go in for that urine test, if you expect to test positive for THC, you could inform your employer of exactly what we've talked about here, that you use a CBD full spectrum hemp product, that this product is compliant with the Farm Act, that it's been doctor recommended, that the Farm Act has removed THC when derived from hemp from Schedule 1. So therefore, if you test positive, you're not doing, it doesn't indicate you're doing anything illegal. Your employer still is acting in accordance with the Drug-Free Workplace Act, that your employer is not letting you as an employee have anything in your system that's federally legal. It's still fully 100% a illegal drug-free workplace, despite the fact that you're testing positive for THC, because
okay,
THC derived from hemp is not illegal. So
all right.
conversations with your employer could preempt any action.
I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here, okay? Because that's what I like to do. Um, you're counting on being able to talk to the employer, and then counting on the employer making a rational decision, and that's great, and that's great. I love that thought. My concern, and not to, so I don't have to denigrate any bosses, I'll just say, what about those positions where they have um, a federal contract
Mhm.
that states that no one can use any drugs that are that are well, basically that the gist of it that states that anyone who tests positive for THC has to be fired. Period.
But that's not it. That's not it. The Drug Free Workplace Act says that employees can be tested, or employees may be tested to determine whether or not they are using any federally illegal substances. And the thing is that since THC derived from hemp is no longer federally illegal, the employer would not be acting contrary to that act by allowing you to continue to work there.
So, well, but unfortunately, my concern is, and I know we could go around about this all day, but my concern is um, the bosses then, or the companies then, are going to have to make the legal decision to uh, they're going to have to get on board legally. And I just think most of them aren't going to want to think that hard. I think they're just going to try and fire everybody, and people are going to have to sue.
Right.
unfortunately.
Right. Well, there's sort of a pattern that states go through. Many of the states that have legalized marijuana, the employers have matured on this issue, and they no longer see THC positive tests as a basis for termination in many states. So, Oklahoma is, once 2612 becomes effective in 3 months, Oklahoma will allow employers with safety sensitive positions to terminate their employees for THC tests, but now with a qualification, so long as that THC is coming from marijuana and not hemp. So an employer needs to become aware of the law. The attorneys working for the employers should be advising them on this, that if you terminate somebody for a positive THC test without inquiring whether or not that THC is coming from hemp or from marijuana, opens you up to an ADA action. So, an employer who wants to not be sued needs to draw this distinction.
Now I think that had the representatives understood, and the senators in our capital understood what you just explained to everybody about how some THC is legal federally, I don't think 2612 would look the way it does. I think they did this not knowing. I think that this
Mhm.
caused a problem, and I think I see it as a window into us helping repair that problem next year. What do you think?
Well, every employee who has a medical marijuana card in a safety sensitive position could in theory go to their physician, ask for a written recommendation for a full spectrum hemp product, purchase a full spectrum hemp product compliant with the Farm Act. And that basically just makes this provision in 2612 legally impotent.
Well, that's going to cause we're going to have some court actions over this whole thing.
Yeah,
I see it.
yeah,
I
expect
think, look,
that.
I believe, and I wouldn't have said this a few months ago, but I believe that knowing that information now and knowing some of the representatives that I've met in the last couple months of the session, I think if we take this information to them and explain this to
Mhm.
them, um, we're going to be on good ground. And as with anything with the lawmakers that I learned right off the bat, if we bring them a solution, I think we're going to have everybody listening. I really think we can get some headway.
Well, I hate to say it, the solution was already in the original 788. Basically, you should treat this as any other prescribed medication. Because after all, Marinol is Schedule 3, that's THC. An employee working for federal government could have THC in their system from Marinol and not be fired. A safety sensitive employee could have Marinol in their system and not be fired. Somebody who's using medical marijuana could get a Marinol prescription as well, right? So there's so many ways in which somebody who wanted to protect themselves could do so. Use hemp and Marinol.
Well,
You're getting the same thing. You're getting,
I
you know,
really hope anybody out there with safety sensitive jobs is paying attention to this. We're really trying to help you guys in understanding how to work within the program that we have. Just like everybody else, we have some issues with some of the particular laws that were passed. Um, Maybe not as big of issues as what we could have had for sure. We could be in a much worse position. So I just think, we're doing, you definitely doing the right thing here, Lawrence, by explaining this to everybody so that they understand how they can work within this program. And there is a way to do it.
yeah,
There is a way to do it.
yeah, yeah. And I'm not saying employees should be dishonest about it to their employer, but the fact is if you are using a federally legal product, then if you test positive, you're not violating the law. They don't have a basis for terminating you.
Yeah, and as to that, this if you're in this situation and you're having to fill out these forms for this federal assisted housing, I got to be honest. I'm going to say don't lie on the form. We're going to have to figure out. That's why we have to put a stop to this, because if people lie on the form and then they get caught, then they're going to get them for lying on a federal form, or would it just be for lying on a
Yeah.
lease? I would think it's
Yeah.
applying,
Now,
lying, it's lying to the federal government.
you know, if you're lying on a form like this, I don't know what the consequences are, but at least for now, right? The your the data related to your medical marijuana card is all privileged information. Nobody could access it outside of the OMMA. So, you know, landlords who say that they could find out, well, as a matter of law, right now they can't. You don't know what's going to happen in the future, but right now they can't.
Yeah, that was another thing that she stated was this particular caseworker told her that HIPAA did not apply and they would get her information. They would find out one way or the other. So I don't know how they're doing this, but yeah.
Yeah, it's right now it's sealed. So, and there's one more thing I wanted to point out. So another, I think, significant issue is that in 2612, Section 8D of 2612, that section says that medical marijuana licensees cannot be denied any public benefits, housing and medical and Medicare and so on. So having a medical marijuana card says you can't be denied. Now let me explain this a little bit. That there may be a federal benefit, but the federal benefit is often managed at the state level. The state could set the rules for who does and who doesn't get that benefit. All right. So just like what we're seeing right now from the housing authority, right? They're deciding that they don't want anybody receiving public assistance to have a medical marijuana card. That's a state level or even a local Oklahoma City level decision. Federal government gives them latitude. So 2612 states that the recipients of these those who hold a medical marijuana card cannot be denied these public benefits. So at the level of state policy, anyone who's setting policies for the distribution of these benefits, even if the dollars are coming from the federal government, at the state level, they can't deny people these benefits.
So
2612 becomes effective in 90 days. And so they're getting rid of everybody now from public housing because in 90 days they won't be able to. You see, it's a purge. In 90 days, they're not going to be able to do what they're doing now by state law.
is that what you think is going on here? You think he's trying to, you think he's got 90 days left to do this? And so that's what they're doing is,
Yeah, you know, honestly, it occurs to me I should go back to 788 as well and see whether or not there's similar language in 788. So let me just take a look here. Give me a moment.
ooh, he's going to ask the magic box. It's going to tell him everything.
It's not as miraculous as that. I still have to go through all my lists of
Since you're
files.
from Canada, I just
Um,
imagine you sitting there in front of all those monitors and you have cameras on every one of us.
how would that happen?
I don't know. I'm just assuming you're the man. You're monitoring everybody. You're Oz,
I, I'm the panopticon.
21st century or 21st century Wizard of Oz. I don't know. You're the man behind the curtain. If you pull back the grumpy curtain, what do you find? Lawrence Pasternack.
Uh, uh, you're the wizard. All right, so I'm just quickly glancing at 788. Somebody who might have it more memorized than I do might want to make a comment here. I can't just with a quick glance find a provision in 788 that says that medical marijuana recipients cannot be denied a public benefit. It might be in there, I don't see it immediately, but one way or another, in 90 days, they won't be able to be denied a public benefit.
Okay, so we have to
So
put a stop to this Mark Gillette. We have to find a way to shut this guy down. A lot of people could. We have
well,
enough people in Oklahoma homeless right now. We have flooding going on, and this guy is finding a way to cut his budget by kicking people out who try and get off opioids.
so as a landlord, one thing in 788 says landlords cannot deny leases to medical marijuana card holders. So at least at the level of the landlord, that can't be denied.
Hey, while I've got you on here and we're ranting about this, uh, I wanted to mention the testing. We're about to start seeing the testing now with all these new rules rolling out. The testing that you helped fight so hard to get. Explain to everybody why that's so important. I think this is huge. This, in my opinion, is why this is medicine, or how we use it as medicine properly. But go ahead.
So back in September, I offered a presentation to the medical marijuana working group concerning testing and labeling. And one of the main points of focus there was on terpenes. So when people go to a dispensary and they want Blue Dream as opposed to um, a Kush or something, when they go, the differences between one strain and another is essentially the terpene profile. And so whether or not, same thing with an indica and sativa, basically it's a difference in terpenes. And so whether or not something is uplifting or sedating, whether or not something helps with your anxiety and so on, it's very much going to be a matter of the terpenes. And so if you want Blue Dream could be different from one dispensary to the next, from one grow to the next, from one harvest to the next. But if you actually have the full testing results, and you could see what the terpene profile is for that particular flower, then you can more reliably know what to purchase, what's beneficial for you, and what next to buy. So, ultimately, you want consistency in medical products, and you want to know what the medically effective components are. And so, as I see it, for people who, for if their concern is anything other than simply just THC, if their concern is to treat themselves with regards to one condition or another, this is essential information.
So let me tell you how this affects me personally and immediately. Uh, I smoke only sativas during the day. Rarely do I get so anxious that I need an indica during the day, and I've got so much to do. I can't really smoke an indica during the day. I save that for within an hour of going to bed because I'm usually out pretty quick once that happens. And there was one I tried not long ago. It was Durban Poison, and
Mm.
it was just before in a show I had to do. And I can tell you that show was supposed to be an hour, and I had a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, and it ended up being about 15 minutes, and I never got to anything that I was supposed to talk about. It made me so anxious and so paranoid, I couldn't hardly do my show. And I haven't touched Durban Poison since then. But the only way before now I was able to separate one kind from another other than having to remember the names. And unfortunately, there's too many names out there now, and everybody wants to invent a new kind, so they're all coming up with new names every other week, which is unfortunate. And it's not a good thing. So, but had I been able to see the terpene profile, then I would know what it is that was in the Durban poison that isn't in, say, the AK-47 that doesn't give me any trouble, or the sour diesel that doesn't make me feel like that, and then I would know what terps to avoid, and I wouldn't have any accidents like that where I'm needing to do something, and I think I'm properly medicating myself to go throughout my day, and I end up with the wrong medicine. So this is huge. This really is huge. I mean, I equate this to dummy lights on a car versus having gauges. If you have dummy lights on your car, you have these lights that flash when you ran out of oil and it's too late, or your car is overheating and it's too late. You have dummy lights that tell you, hey, dummy, you should have checked your stuff. Now your car is in major trouble. When you have gauges, it tells you, hey, this is how we're performing. You can monitor how we're performing. You can know what we need and when to check on us and what to give us by how we perform. We can do that now with our cannabis. Once that becomes, once 2612 is fully in effect, end of August, I think, then that will be everywhere. But I want to give a shout out
Mhm.
as of right now. Cannabis Island opens on Saturday, and everything there has a full terpene profile. I am so looking forward to just sitting there looking at these charts, trying these different medicines, and figuring out these terpenes. I'm really looking forward to this adventure. And thank you for pushing for that so hard, Lawrence. I
It
remember
took,
in the
it
meeting,
took a lot of pushing.
I remember in the meeting, um, in the group of us, the activists, the people that were writing it, the unity plan before we gave it to the lawmakers. I remember nobody wanted that, and it was because of the price. And I got to tell you, the price is high. It is way too high. But prices can be, they will come down. We will get there. But nobody wanted it because of the price. Lawrence was very adamant about demanding it. He asked me to help push this one as hard as we could, and I'm glad we did. And I thank you for pushing that, Lawrence.
And price wise, let's not overstate it. In most states with established markets, the price for terpene testing is about $40 or $50. And
But
so, in a 10-pound batch, that's trivial.
two things. One is the testing on everything that you'll see on Saturday was over $500 a test, which is insane. But that's what
Right.
it costs. Um, so I mean, we need to see that dramatically dropped. And also, this is a complete and full profile. This is everything. And what is it
Mm.
that the what is it the 2612 requires the testing you wanted? Isn't it 9 or 10 terpenes?
Well, what they did was they indicated that the Department of Health shall establish the rules for terpene testing, but the law says terpenes have to be tested, and then they left it to the Department of Health. And way back, I spoke with people at the Department of Health as to which terpenes are the ones that should be tested. There's a planned entry to the USP for the United States Pharmacopoeia for cannabis coming out with a list of 9 terpenes, if I recall. And so
Yeah.
I gave them those 9 terpenes. And so we'll see what the Department of Health does. Maybe they'll contact me again about it. I don't know. But, somewhere between 8 and 12 terpenes, I think, would be appropriate as required, and then others as optional.
So what we did here was we pushed for terpene testing that matches what they're already working on a federal level, right? So
That was my
when it changes
recommendation.
federally, Oklahoma is already a step ahead of the game because you reached out to the people you knew and got that information, and that's what we pushed
Yeah.
for.
Yeah, and by the way, the news just came out today that the Federal Circuit Court, Second Circuit Court, has required the DEA within 6 months to do a review of the medical marijuana for medical purposes. So they required them in the next 6 months. The DEA, of course, could go against the court, but the court just said, you guys have to do it. Because typically they drag their feet. The other times it took like something like 5 years from the point at which there was an appeal to when they issued a decision. And the decision, of course, was not to change it. But Second Circuit Court just required that they go through another review in the next 6 months. Who knows what'll happen? But that's another important piece of news.
That's good. We just might see some changes. I mean, I know I see these posts at least one a week that says federal government poised to legalize marijuana by the end of the year, but we've been seeing those for a couple years, and I think it's just a teaser. I don't think it's real news. I know there's lots of stuff that is trying to get through Washington right now. And I've stated this before, and I'll say it again. I don't think that the president's in a position to get anything more than the States Rights Act passed. And if he does that, it kicks it all back to the states, and that all they fix is the banking issue and the firearms issue, I think, is it. And the interstate
No, that's not
trafficking
true.
issue.
It does more than that. It does more than that.
Okay,
It,
well,
it, it would allow for cannabis to be prescription by prescription.
okay, well, that's good.
It
But
would,
the problem, the
it would,
problem
it would
is,
resolve the worries of physicians.
the problem is the basis behind the whole thing. States Rights Act. Okay, what that would do is give each state the ability to make its own decisions in these areas. And my concern is not for the liberal states that will have a free for all, that's great. But for the states where we will have people like this, the district attorney Jason Hicks in Cato County, or this Mark uh, Gillette at the Oklahoma City Housing Authority, if we allow for each state to make its own decision, then we have thousands of backwards thinkers making decisions that cost people their dignity, their life, everything. It costs them everything.
Now, consider the following: the federal government can't require the states to sell marijuana. If the federal government legalizes it at the federal level, it doesn't mean that the states have to make it legal. In theory, right, an individual state, let's say Idaho or something, could still ban it because states have, in addition to the Federal Controlled Substances Act, states have their own Controlled Substances Acts, and they will ban things that aren't federally banned. So even if we had something grander than the States Act, still in theory, a state could, like a dry county or whatever, a state could say, well, we in Idaho think marijuana is the devil and we're not going to let it happen here. Potatoes for us.
Well, we've got to shed a light on more of this. That's why I've asked you to come on tonight. We will get a hold of Julie. She's busy with some family things. She's got 4 kids. Anybody with 4 kids is always busy with family things. So when she has time, we will get her legal opinion of this. But I think we need to shed a light on this. I think that we can put a stop to it. I think that if we can let our legislators know this is going on, I think everybody could call their legislators' local office, since they're not in the Capitol now, tell them you're afraid people in their district might be going through this and you want them to help put a stop to it. I think pressure is how we change this. I think pressure is how we make a difference.
Yeah.
So
it sounds to me like local housing authorities are misrepresenting federal law and acting where they don't need to act. And, people should contact their representatives about this.
yeah, because I mean, look, we could do nothing and we can forget about this because I'm not on a federal housing program. And, we can think about it next year when legislation comes around and we want to maybe write a law that helps fix this problem. But by then, thousands of people could be put in jeopardy. Thousands of families could suffer. Thousands of people could lose everything, including their lives, because people in desperate situations do desperate things, and people in housing programs are already people in need. We don't need to put more stress on them. Some of them are finally getting peace in their life, getting their medical marijuana card, getting off some of the opioids, getting some control of their life again. And now they're being told, no, you can't have control of your life. It belongs to the doctors and the government because we're helping you, and therefore we get to make all the decisions.
We own your body.
Yeah.
You don't own your body. We own it. We can do what we want with it. We could deny you what we want to deny you with the use of your own body. That's our government.
Right. That is. Look, I mean, the idea that they would put people out on the street for getting a legal medical marijuana card, in my opinion, this sounds like something that would have happened in Nazi Germany. I mean, I know that's inflammatory, but I just think that strongly about it. Okay.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
We can talk about that another day.
Okay.
I think it's been an hour. I think we should wrap it up.
Yes, it has. I see.
I agree with you absolutely.
The director's on your side this time. So the director's come in the room and told us it's time to wrap up the show. So we're going to listen to the director and we're going to wrap up the show. That's what good directors are for.
Okay.
Right? Let us know when we've gone on too long. Okay, Lawrence. Yeah. Lawrence, thank you for coming on. We will do this again soon. Go spend some time with the director, and I will talk to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Bye, everyone.
Okay. Okay, everybody. Thank you to Lawrence Pasternack for that. That was fun. Okay, the issue's not fun though. Look, this is a serious issue by us raising our voices and us doing something. If we don't do something, this will continue. This is on us to stop. I'm asking for everybody here to help. We have people here watching that are in this situation. That's who's reached out to me. Help those that you're sitting here talking to by getting involved with this issue, by getting a hold of your representative, letting them know what you've seen here, tag them, tell them to come on here and watch this, tell them to contact us. We'll fill them in. I'm sure they know us. And let's put a stop to this. This reefer madness has to be stopped. This is, as I've said before, reefer madness is, in my opinion, at this point, it's a farce. It's about how much money can we take from you before we're forced to accept science, before we're forced to accept the reality right in front of us. It's time to stop the reefer madness, folks. Okay, again, don't forget about the Green Retreat, June 28th and 29th. Lawrence Pasternack will be out there. He will have plenty to say about this, and he loves to talk to people too, so he'll be there for you to chat with. You can have a personal conversation with him, and you'll be amazed some of the things that comes out of his mouth. I know he looks very restrained, but he's a radical. You'll like it. And again, thanks to the sponsors, the Greens Bakery in South Oklahoma City, Green Country Bud in Tulsa, Sweet Leaf Dispensary in Bartlesville, and the newest Cannabis Island in Del City, which, as I said, Saturday I will be there for the grand opening. This is going to be a blast. Lots of big things going on. I'm not going to talk about those on this show because I don't want to end up getting blocked, but it's going to be great. And again, full terpene testing, okay? This is when we get to really start to narrow down what works for us and what doesn't. And if you're growing your own or waiting to grow your own until you figure out what works, this is the key, because this tells you the terpenes you need, not just the particular flavor of your flower. So come to Cannabis Island. I'll be there all day. It's going to be a blast. All right, folks, that's it for tonight. Till next time, stay grumpy. I'll see you on the road.